He wasn't born gentle with people. He learned numbers before he learned trust. He knew how to move markets, how to end a negotiation with a handshake that felt like a verdict. But that night, standing in his glass-walled penthouse over Denver's lights, the world felt small and loud at the same time. He tossed his tailored blazer onto the leather couch and stared at the city like it had personally offended him. "I can't do this anymore," he muttered. Carter Hale, his assistant for 8 long years, leaned on the marble island like a man who had seen this scene before and already knew it would get worse before it got better. What did she say this time? Logan paced. She raised a flute of champagne, toasted to us getting back together, then took a selfie with the dessert plate like I was a limited edition bonus. Maybe she was nervous, Carter offered. She said she missed me. And my helicopter. In the same breath, he stopped pacing, jaw tight. "No one sees me, Carter. They see the accounts. The invitations." The brand, Carter didn't answer. Anything he said would bounce off steel armor or sink like a stone. Logan's eyes sharpened and a dangerous kind of calm came over him. "Fine, let's stop guessing and measure it." "Oh no," Carter said. "That's your lab voice. Who's the test subject and do I need legal on speed dial?" 4 subjects, Logan replied. 4 cards, no limits. 3 days. Carter blinked. "You're actually going to hand out unlimited black cards." Bell, Logan counted on his fingers, who turns a room into a stage. Tessa, sharp, polished, strategic, or so she says. Sloane, queen of the photo op, fluent in leverage. He paused. And Nora, Carter straightened. "Your housekeeper?" Logan's mouth twitched. "The one who hums off-key while scrubbing pans. The one who told me to keep my hands out of her risotto or she'd slap my wrist with a wooden spoon. The only person in this place who treats you like a person," Carter said. "You're going to test her too?" "I don't know her," Logan said almost to himself. "Not really. I want to see what she does with power." "This isn't bold," Carter told him. "It's reckless. Sometimes those are the same thing." The next morning, 4 black envelopes sat on the mahogany desk, names written in silver ink that caught the light like a dare. Belle Summers arrived first. The marble floor echoed under glossy heels, a dress that begged cameras to notice it. She laughed before she spoke, the kind of laugh that watches itself in the mirror. "What's this?" she teased, taking the envelope. "A breakup gift or a makeup bribe?" "Neither," Logan said, tone cool. 3 days. No limit, her smile said, "Finally you understand." She slid the card into a clutch and swayed out like a headline. Tessa Monroe came next. Crisp blazer, straight spine, an open tablet already listing bullet points no one had requested. She eyed the envelope. "You aren't dying, are you?" "Not today," Logan said. 3 days. Use it as you see fit. Her nod hid calculation behind professionalism. She left with the quiet focus of a woman about to pitch a room. Sloane Vesper floated in like a magazine spread come to life. Sunglasses inside because that's what statements look like. She turned the card in her fingers, suspicion and delight sharing space on her face. "Is there a catch?" "No catch," Logan said. "No ceiling." Her smirk said there never was. Nora Bennett did not glide. She slipped in from the side hall balancing a mixing bowl against her hip, a dish towel looped over her shoulder. "Boss, that oven's making that coughing sound again." Logan held out the envelope. "For you," she frowned. "You're not firing me, are you?" "It's a gift." She opened it, stared at the smooth black card, then at him. "Are you feeling okay? That banana bread I brought yesterday was burnt, like emergency room burnt. Take it, Nora, 3 days. Buy whatever you want." She looked at the card like it was a spaceship key. "Anything?" "Anything." Hours later, Logan sat with a glass of whiskey while Carter scrolled transactions with the grim concentration of a doctor reading scans. 3 helicopter rentals, Carter said. $15,000 gown. Bookings at Mile High Lounge. Deposit with a gala planner. Predictable, Logan murmured. "And Nora?" Carter squinted. "Groceries, rice, paint, diapers, secondhand toys." He stopped. "And 200 hot dogs." Logan set down the glass slowly. 200. 200, Carter repeated, because how else do you say something that odd? Logan didn't smile quickly. It arrived slowly, uninvited, like a memory of something good. "Now that," he said, "I did not see coming." He tried to ignore it. He told himself it didn't matter. He failed. By the next afternoon, curiosity had him by the collar. He took Carter's tablet, traced the rental van's GPS ping to a neighborhood where lawns were small and neat and the air tasted like real life. The sign over a brick building read, Riverside Haven Children's Home. The van with the open doors sat out front like a scene that hadn't put itself away yet. Nora moved back and forth through the doorway, hair in a messy knot, jeans dusted with flour or paint. Maybe both. She carried boxes like they were light because she'd decided they were. Even from across the street he could hear her laugh. Not pretty, not trained, just true. He stood there a minute longer than necessary. Then he crossed the street and stepped inside. The front desk held a bell and a woman with years of kindness folded into her smile. "Can I help you?" "Logan Pierce," he said, extending a hand. "Helen Whitaker. I run the home." She followed his eyes to the courtyard. "We do what we can, mostly because people like Nora don't wait to be asked." "Nora?" His voice did a thing voices do when they're caught off guard. "She's here almost every week," Helen said. "Today's special?" You should see, he did. The courtyard looked like a celebration that decided to become a neighborhood. Balloons tied to trees, paper cloths held down by crayons and tape. Children everywhere. In the middle of it, Nora, in a patched clown suit with two big shoes and a bright red nose on an elastic string, trying to twist a balloon into something that was definitely not a dog. When it popped loud, she jumped, then laughed harder than the kids. Logan leaned against a tree and watched her hand a bandage to a little girl who'd skinned her knee. "This one's magic," Nora whispered. "But it only works if you do 3 hops when I stick it on." The girl hopped 3 times, tear tracks turning to grin lines. The bandage stuck. So did the spell. Something inside Logan that had been shut a long time cracked open and let light in. Nora spotted him and froze, the red nose hanging lopsided against her chest. "Mr. Pierce, what are you doing here?" He straightened. "I heard about the party and wanted to contribute." "From who?" she asked. "Contacts," he said, and felt 12 years old for lying badly. She gave him a look that could sand wood. Then she sighed. "Since you're here, you can help. I've got 200 hot dogs and only 2 hands." 10 minutes later, Logan stood behind a grill with a spatula that kept misbehaving. He charred 3 in a row, dropped 1, smeared ketchup on the wrong side of a bun, and looked like a man who hired cooks for a reason. "Ever considered demolition as a career?" Nora asked. "Because cooking isn't your destiny." Children tugged on his sleeves. "Are you rich?" a boy asked, eyes curiously sincere. "A little," Logan said carefully. "Can you buy a dragon?" "There are no real dragons," Logan said. "R2, the boy replied. Nora said she saw one. Nora winked at Logan and went right on making a balloon into something that might be a giraffe if you squinted at it kindly. By the time the sun dropped, Logan was tired in the way that earned sleep. He helped Nora pick up paper plates, pop leftover balloons, and stack folding chairs into a sound like closure. "Why do you do this?" he asked finally. "It can't be easy. It can't be cheap. You didn't have to use that card on anyone but you." Nora straightened. Her clown shoes squeaked. "Because someone needs to. And because they're kids," she shrugged. "I don't get paid. I get something better." Days like this, Logan didn't have a clever line. He found he didn't want one. Back in the penthouse that night, the silence felt wrong, like a room that had been emptied too far. He stood in his kitchen and listened for off-key humming that wasn't there and felt ridiculous and human at the same time. The next afternoon, he drifted into the kitchen like a man walking into a choice. "Coffee?" he asked, surprising himself. Nora wiped her hands on a towel. "With you? Unless I'm invited to your other plans." She glanced at her jeans and worn sneakers. "I don't own clothes for your kind of places. You don't need them." 20 minutes later, they sat in a small cafe where the menu fit on a chalkboard and nobody cared who anyone was. Nora sipped and squinted at the mug like it held a secret. "So this is rich people coffee," she said. "It tastes like the corner bakery." "That's the point," he said softly. "Simple." For a while they didn't do anything impressive. They just sat there being people. Somehow it felt new. He didn't plan to see her again outside work. He did anyway. Not on purpose. He would find excuses to stand at the doorway while she scrubbed a pan like it had insulted the family. He would ask if she needed anything and mean it in a way he wasn't used to meaning things. The experiment kept rolling. Belle appeared at a gala draped in a gown so expensive it might have come with a deed. turning slow circles for phones that loved her more than people did. Tessa pitched Logan a whole deck about investing in herself, as if the card were a venture fund. Sloan booked the Colorado Convention Center because gravity wasn't chic enough. Logan wore a tux and walked into Sloan's event with Carter at his shoulder. Flashbulbs bloomed like small harmless storms. He saw Nora near the back in a simple navy dress she'd probably borrowed from a friend of a friend. Hair up, posture calm. She wasn't performing for the room. She was showing an older donor photos of the kids building paper towers with sticky hands and serious faces. Sloan drifted toward Logan, glossed and glowing. "Darling, this night exists because of you," she purred, linking her arm through his. Logan's eyes were already moving. "Excuse me," he crossed to Nora. "You came," Helen asked me. Nora lifted a hand in a little wave, like hello was a choice you make on purpose. I almost said no. Why? She glanced around. "Rooms like this make me feel like furniture." Before he could answer, a waiter brushed past. Another woman did too close, too deliberate. A glass tipped. Cold champagne bloomed across Nora's dress. She froze. The nearest crowd didn't help. Belle smirked from a safe corner. Tessa found something urgent to stare at on her phone. Sloane's mouth tightened with the kind of sympathy that photographs well. Logan didn't check who did it. He didn't play detective or ask if she was okay in the quiet voice people use when they are afraid of caring. He took off his tux jacket and draped it over her shoulders. "The most important person in this room," he said, his voice carrying just enough, "is not wearing the most expensive fabric. She's the one who showed up for children who can't show up for themselves." Silence did a slow roll through the crowd. Then conversation tried to pretend it hadn't been listening. Nora looked up at him, cheeks still pink, eyes steady. "Thank you," she said, and made it sound like more than manners. Whispers started the next day. Some people said Nora had reeled him in with an act. Others said Logan had finally lost his mind, choosing a housekeeper's quiet over a city full of glamorous noise. Logan didn't care. For the first time in years, he felt awake. The storm hit fast. Documents appeared online claiming Nora had skimmed money from Riverside Haven. Someone stitched photos of her using the black card into a lie that looked neat enough to be believed. Headlines jumped like sparks. Investors called. "Optics," they said. "This looks bad. Fix it." Carter tried to steady the floor under Logan's feet. "Let it pass. If you chase every rumor, you'll drown." Logan confronted Nora. He didn't want to. He did anyway. Her eyes shone with hurt. "After everything you've seen, do you think I would steal from those kids?" "I don't know what to think," he said, and hated his own honesty for it. She left with a small bag and steady steps. She folded her apron on the counter like a thank you note, and she didn't look back when she closed the door. The penthouse swallowed the sound of the latch and handed it back to him. He stood in the quiet and felt a kind of panic he couldn't explain to anyone who hadn't ever been alone with a mistake. He didn't sleep. He researched. He called Carter at 1 a.m. and didn't apologize. They dug into invoices, timestamps, camera angles. They found edges where a story had been cut and glued back crooked. They followed digital fingerprints into the hands that had pressed send. It wasn't one person. It was two. Belle and Tessa had money and motive and enough mutual dislike of Nora to call it teamwork. Logan took the proof to a room full of people who measured truth in numbers. He didn't ask for permission to speak. He didn't raise his voice because he didn't have to. "This woman you smeared," he said, holding up documents, "feeds children you've never met. The liars are not in the kitchen. They are in this room." He named names. He laid out the trail. If you make a case like a map, even the people who are lost can follow it. It broke fast. Reputations that had been built for photos slid out from under themselves. Sloan left through a side door and didn't post for a while. Carter exhaled a breath that had been sitting in his chest for days. But the victory didn't taste like anything if he couldn't hand it to the person it belonged to. He drove to Riverside. Haven. Children swarmed him like he was a climbing wall. He let them. He looked past them to a corner where Nora sat on the floor with a boy in a math book, explaining division with 3 crayons and a patience that turned numbers into friends. She glanced up. They didn't speak for a moment because sometimes words are fireworks and you need the sky clear. "I was wrong," he said finally. "I'm sorry." "Do you believe me now?" she asked. "I believe you," he said. His voice didn't crack often. "It did now. And I want to stand beside you. Not as your boss. Not as a man running an experiment he thought he could control, as someone who finally understands what giving is. Her mouth quivered at the corners. Then she let herself smile. The penthouse learned to echo with different sounds. Weekends turned into games on kitchen tiles. Art projects spread like maps. Small shoes parked in pairs by the door. Logan started answering emails later because there were card towers to admire and jokes to pretend were new. He and Nora worked with Helen to expand the children's home into a foundation that reached beyond one courtyard. Carter joked that Logan had found his most profitable investment and that the returns came in laughter and saved light bills. One evening, under string lights hung like new constellations in Riverside's courtyard, the children formed a crooked circle and tried to sing in one key. Nora walked down the aisle that wasn't really an aisle in a dress that looked like yes and home at the same time. Helen officiated with hands that shook only a little. Logan took Nora's hands, and the world did that thing where it shrinks and expands in one breath. He wasn't thinking about markets or optics or what anyone thought a man like him should do. He was thinking about a bandage and 3 hops, about the smell of grilled hot dogs and chalk on fingers, about a clown nose on a string and a woman who made mistakes look survivable. "I was alone at the top," he said, voice soft. "You made me want to climb down and build something." Nora laughed, bright and a little watery. "You're still you," she said. "I just showed you where the door was." They said vows that weren't fancy and weren't the same. They promised to show up when it wasn't easy, to choose honesty over pride, to carry the heavy end together. The kids cheered at the wrong time and the right time. Carter pretended not to wipe his eyes. They danced under lights that hummed like happy bees and cut a cake that wasn't symmetrical. The children took turns stepping on his shoes and hers. Someone started a chant for speech, and Logan lifted a hand. "I spent years counting the wrong things," he said. "Turns out the best math is how many lives you can make lighter with what you have." The crowd clapped, but not politely. The kind of clapping that means we know you now. That night, after the last dish found a sink and the last balloon gave up, they stood in the quiet courtyard and didn't rush. "Why me?" he asked. Not because he doubted, but because the question was part of the ritual of being surprised by joy. Nora leaned into him. "Because you were brave enough to be wrong," she said. "And brave enough to fix it," he smiled. "And you?" "I like a man who can grill badly and apologize well." They laughed and didn't stop for a while. Time didn't turn perfect. It turned honest. There were still days when permits moved like molasses and nights when a child cried for a mother who couldn't come back. There were arguments about budget lines and paint colors and whether spaghetti counts as a vegetable if you eat it with enthusiasm. But there was a table big enough for the kind of silence that means safe. On a normal Tuesday, Nora caught him standing in the kitchen on purpose. "What are you counting?" she asked. "Not bills," he said. "Blessings. Keep going," she told him. Like a clue on a treasure map, so he kept going through committee meetings where people said no and then, because someone stayed and answered questions like they mattered, said, "Maybe." He kept going through mornings when he had to show a little boy that monsters were only shadows from a coat on a chair. He kept going through apologies when he forgot to set an alarm and through pride when a teenager who once threw chairs passed a test she thought was bigger than she was. He kept going because the experiment he started to prove other people's emptiness had proven something else entirely. That love is a better metric than fear, that giving is a more reliable index than taking, and that the only ceiling worth removing is the one you put over your own heart. Months later, at a school fair that smelled like fried sugar and chalk dust, Logan manned a grill with more confidence and fewer disasters. Nora braided a child's hair while explaining how to turn yarn into a bracelet pattern that looked like tiny stars under a lamp. Carter lost a ring toss game in a way that seemed strategic. Helen carried a tray of lemonade like a queen making rounds in a kingdom that didn't care about crowns. A reporter drifted by and asked Logan, "When did everything change for you?" He glanced at Nora across the way. She looked up and found him in the noise like she always did. "The night I stopped measuring and started seeing," he said. "And what did you see?" "A woman with a red rubber nose," he said, smiling. "And the truth." Late that night, they carried a sleeping child to the car that wasn't theirs but always felt like family when the doors shut. They drove through a city that gleamed like a promise someone meant to keep. At a red light, Nora reached for his hand. "You okay?" she asked. "Better than okay," he said. "Home." When they pulled into the driveway, the porch light clicked on by itself, throwing little star-shaped shadows across Nora's wrist where the bracelet lay. Inside, the living room looked like itself. Same couch, same throw, same scuffed table that ran a hand over every story. It was not luxury. It was something rarer. Logan set down his keys and turned. "Mrs. Pierce," he said, trying the words like a favorite song and finding they still fit. She grinned. "Mr. Pierce," he stepped closer. "Thank you for teaching me my own house." "Thank you for letting it be one," she answered. They stood there a moment longer. Two people who had been lost in different ways, found on a sidewalk made of hot dog wrappers and honesty. Outside, a siren wailed far away and didn't matter. Inside, the clock ticked like a heartbeat, steady and sure. And if anyone ever asked him years later how 4 black cards could break a cynic and build a home, he would tell them the truth. It wasn't the money. It was the choice to give it away. If you've ever wondered whether a small act changes anything, remember this. Sometimes a bowl of soup and a folded jacket are the first bricks in a bridge you didn't know you needed. Sometimes a bandage and 3 hops are all it takes to make a stranger brave. And sometimes the smartest experiment a man can run is to open his hands and wait to see what love does with them. Logan and Nora didn't live happily ever after. They lived fully ever after, married, messy, grateful, and stubborn about joy. Which is better? And when the city slept, when the last email was ignored on purpose, when the last glass was rinsed and the last light clicked off, Logan would lay there with Nora's hand in his and think of numbers that finally added up. 1 heart, 1 home. Everyone welcome. If this story touched your heart, comment 100 so I know you stayed with us till the end. Also tell me which country you're watching from. I'd love to see how far this story travels. And if you believe more people should hear stories like this, please share this video with your friends and family.